The scene in Minneapolis last night is captured in still photos. Police and the National Guard arresting protesters for defying a curfew imposed for the second straight night. Protests over the death of George Floyd, the black man who died in the custody of a white police officer, have continued in the city now for 6 days and 6 nights, and they have spread well beyond Minneapolis, right across the United States into dozens of cities and Canada and other countries around the world. But let's take you to the place where it began. Carolyn Dunn, part of our CBC News team, covering the story for us, and she's live in Minneapolis. So great to see you there this morning, Carolyn. Right at the site, let's explain to people, hi, the makeshift memorial to George Floyd. We saw it from another angle earlier this morning, but you're right in the center of it, so show us around.
Yeah, well, you know, this is the actual intersection where George Floyd died. And you can see there are circles and circles of flowers. And if Sam even wants to point out beyond there, you can see the memorial. And over to the right, there is an actual mural on the wall. A memorial also to George Floyd. It's actually, people continue to leave flowers even 1 week after his death. And this is the very spot where Chief Medario Arredondo, the chief of the Minneapolis police, came here last night, knelt before these flowers in a moment of silence and in honor of George Floyd, and then did a remarkable interview with our colleagues at CNN while George Floyd's family was listening live. And basically, he took responsibility for his department's role in the death of George Floyd. He said that he was speaking out then because silence is complicity. Why don't we just have a listen to what he had to say last night?
Silence and inaction, you're complicit. You're complicit. If there were one solitary voice that would have intervened and act, that's what I would have hoped for. Unfortunately,
that's what you would have expected from your officers, yes?
Absolutely, and that did not occur. So to the Floyd family, I hope that's my response.
And you'll notice that the chief actually did not have his hat on. That's because when he found out he was talking about the Floyd family, I don't even think he was aware they were listening in. He took his hat off in a show of respect. It was quite a remarkable moment. And I'm quite sure that the folks here in Minneapolis are going to be engaged and compelled by that show of unity.
I want to ask about the very opposite kind of moment that took place yesterday, a terrifying moment. But before I do, just to remind people, this is 1 week since George Floyd was killed, and the curfew has ended. So are people are obviously still there, Carolyn. Just a little bit more on maybe what you're expecting today, and if there are protesters still there. It looks pretty quiet, obviously, early this morning.
It is, and in these hours we generally get people coming around to look at what happened last night and to help clean up from whatever the damage or, you know, that kind of thing. I suppose there has been a message sent with so many thousands of soldiers and police on the streets that overwhelmed protesters that it is probably futile for them at this point to come out in numbers. So I think many people in this city are hoping that, you know, the protests will continue, but that they will wrap up early and without violence. We've seen a lot of destruction to their own communities, and so, you know, that is a sort of pain on top of pain for many people here, because it is, you know, a small percentage of the protesters that are doing the damage. Most are out here protesting peacefully because of, you know, the hurt and the pain, and yes, the anger that they're feeling.
The moment that was so horrifying and so frightening from the protests yesterday out on Interstate 35, we've looked at it a couple of times this morning, Carolyn, this transport truck going through. Tell me more about it and sort of the aftermath to this.
Well, you know, it was wasn't it just crazy to watch? It was just something like I've never seen, certainly. This transport truck, an oil tanker actually, is on the 35W. That's where about 5,000 to 6,000 protesters were. It was a very peaceful protest. What they were planning on doing was taking a knee in honor of George Floyd on that bridge. And then this tanker truck just comes through and it seems to be speeding up right into the protesters. And we can see, where a few of them jump on top. They actually pull the driver at least partially out of the truck. He is injured and a little bit beat up, but I also heard some audio from people who were streaming it, and there was a real difference in how it was being perceived. Some people were very angry at the truck driver, thought he was doing it on purpose. Other people thought that he, wasn't doing it on purpose, that it was an actual mistake. We do know that he did not go through any barricades to get onto that highway. We do know that he was on the highway already when authorities closed it. I expect we're going to get some answers in the coming hours, but in the meantime, this Minnesota licensed driver has been charged with assault because of that dramatic incident.
Carolyn, thank you so much. I'll look forward to more conversations with you there as you continue to cover this so well for us. Our Carolyn Dunn, who was right there on the memorial scene in Minneapolis this morning.